Welcome our final storyteller, Bill Winter.
Hello. April 18th, 1981 was a Saturday. Just past dawn, I was riding a nearly empty city bus in Montreal. The two frontmost seats were sideways seats facing each other, and I was sitting in one, and directly across from me, right behind the driver, was a guy about my age. And from the way he looked and from the way his French sounded when he was talking with the driver, I could tell that he was a Muslim from either Morocco or Algeria. Then we were looking at each other right in the face, and I could tell he was of the same faith as I. I am a Judeo-pagan Buddhist. I know many of you are also. Some of you call it by some different names. I believe I have heard my wife call it ex-Catholicism, really loving the current pope. But it's the same religion. It has to be, because neither she nor I believe in mixed marriage. So this guy and me, we had to talk, because in our faith, every person is a universe, and why would you not want to have another universe on your side? So he and I talk about this and that, and I learn that he's not from Morocco, he's not from Algeria, he's from Tunisia. Also, he's not Muslim, he is of the same sect as I. I mean, he is a Jew like me, but he's of a different subsect. I am an Ashkenazi Jew, he a Sephardic Jew, which means 1,000 years ago, our ancestors were moving west, and we got to a fork in the road, and my people went north, and his people went south, but here we meet again, so we can catch up. And he says to me, you know, tonight is the first night of Passover. I say, you're right. He says, we like to have a stranger at our table. Will you please join us for dinner tonight? And I said, I'd love to. He gives me his address, and we go our separate ways to meet up later. I know what he means by a stranger at the table. I've been to Passovers before where the hosts go out and, or they invite a stranger to the table, and a stranger can mean somebody they just met or somebody from another country. It could even mean just somebody who's lonely. The point is that you share the blessing and the bounty of the holiday meal, and you enrich the family circle with another universe. I had believed this to be a practice only of a small group of Ashkenazi Jews, but if you've been paying attention, I hope you have, you might have noticed that some of the things I think are true are wrong. That evening, I went to the north end. I took a couple buses to the north end of Montreal, high rises. I find his building, I get to his floor, I knock on his door, he lets me in, I meet his parents and his two lovely sisters. So there's 5 of them and me, we're 6. And the daughters and the dad go into the kitchen to finish preparation of the Passover meal. The mother and the son and I are in the living room and we're chatting, but I can tell she is tuning in to a growing sound of rancor coming out of the kitchen. The son explains to me what's going on. Father and daughters were always very close. A couple years ago, he gets this idea. He wants to get back to his roots. He wants to be an authentic Jew, but he really doesn't know what he himself means by that. He seeks guidance, and he falls under the spell of these holy men who the daughters do not like. They don't like their rigid attitude on religion. They don't like the way that they're pushing dad to have a Passover, not easygoing like they were used to, but with all these special rules they've invented, a lot of ceremony and not a good feeling, and treating the women as servants, not as celebrants, not as agents. So we start, and he says to his oldest daughter, Sophie, pour water over my hands for the ceremonial hand washing. And she says, sure, Dad, but wouldn't you like me to grovel at your feet first? She's on a hair trigger. And then Mom says, girls, humor your father. what does he ever ask of you? The father seems oblivious to the sarcasm of the daughters or the fact that his wife is humoring him. And so it goes on like this, and I see the girl's point. The ceremony really is over the top. But then we get hungry and we're chowing down and things are kind of calming down a little bit. But then he picks up the Haggadah, the storybook of Passover, the how and why, and he's about to launch into it, but then he goes off his own script. Out of an innate civility, he turns to me and says, perhaps our guest would like to say something. And I say, yes, I would. Sir, hats off to you for raising 2 such obedient daughters. In that particular moment, it had a very strong reaction, like a belly laugh, which caused a violent, it was like an maybe unneeded hands-free Heimlich maneuver, because there was violent laughter expelling particles of food hither and yon. It was then that the ceremony was not going like Dad had planned, but he didn't seem to mind. And then the opportunistic mother took this opportunity to take the ceremony Wiccan. She had us holding hands around the table and keeping silent. And in that silence, there was this moment. In that moment, we were one joyous, united, egalitarian family.